Sorry, Esther, I need to put a rider on that. You know, I've been covering the ANC the first time I covered a speech of yours was in Polokwane in 2007, listening to you as ANC Youth League president. And I've been hearing the renewal narrative for a very long time. So I really want to understand what's going to be different this time around.
What is different is informed by material conditions, that we are a party standing here today with a reduced majority, which is still in government, leading with a reduced majority. We have entered in the era of South Africa's politics, the era of coalitions. We only see this in mature democracies in Europe and everywhere else, and also some parts of Africa to a certain extent. In the 30 years of our democracy, we have now entered the era of coalitions, and how, as a party and a government, we are going to behave and conduct our business and respond to these material conditions is got to be something like a change of approach, and basically say we are a party that was formed to liberate the people of South Africa. And if there are signs that these people we seek to liberate are turning their back on us, and to a certain extent, how do we rekindle their love to their party, which is the ANC? And remember, South Africa is not growing younger, older. It's getting younger. So there's new generations of young people that are coming into the mass body politic of South Africa. How will they view the ANC? And that is why our renewal agenda must take off, because the reflection from the elections is quite clear that it has not taken off in a big way as we would have expected. How we are viewed by society and the people is very important. And we went into these elections with those hang-ups from the previous local government elections, and which were totally negative against us. So we need to get out of that situation. And if anyone thinks that we still have the luxury to continuously go in the same old way without convincing the ordinary people there that we are a party that is changing, we are a party that is growing and changing, then this power will be gone.
Absolutely, SG. But there is a difficulty around the question of unity. As much as the ANC needs to renew itself, there's also a question of the ANC not alienating, not fragmenting any further. The debate about having certain people in Parliament, for instance, who have shadows or clouds over their head. For example, the former health minister and the digital vibes scandal, which he resigned over, but he's representing the ANC in Parliament. The former sports minister who was charged with corruption is representing the ANC in Parliament. I think those issues represent a conundrum for the ANC as it tries to renew itself. Is that the difficulty you're facing right now?
It is not a difficulty. Let's go through it case by case. The ANC have adopted a set of rules in terms of how it seeks to preserve integrity within its ranks. As part of the renewal, we then established the Integrity Commission. Now, the Integrity Commission in itself, first on Zweli Mkhize, has not concluded that he cannot be a public representative based on their own independent evaluation and so on. That you are implicated in something wrong and there is no action recommended against you to the effect that you must step aside, it doesn't mean you've got to. So we did give a report on the matter of Mr. Mkhize, Comrade Zweli Mkhize, in relation to the digital vibes matter, unless something new comes up. But the notion that even if nothing it is found against you, you must then be viewed as such, it is incorrect in terms of the correct interpretation of the step-aside rule of the ANC and how it affects individuals. So you don't have a step-aside rule for Mkhize and another one for Mbalula, another one for... It is the same rule. That goes for Zizi. There are members of the ANC who have been serving in the National Assembly, and they've been affected by the step-aside rule. It is Bongo who stepped aside from the committee he was leading to face the charges. And then he was on step-aside, he was a backbencher till the end. He was not re-elected back to Parliament. He did not win the numbers to take him back to Parliament. Smith, when he was arrested, he was outside Parliament. Zizi was arrested whilst he was a minister, and he was also on the ANC list. Now, the National Executive Committee, working with the Integrity Commission, will have to look at the rules again, where there are loopholes and where they are not satisfactory, because members of the ANC, including the Veterans League, have written to me to say that they believe that Comrade Zizi shouldn't have been allowed to go back to Parliament. But I pulled the rules and then sent to them, and I said that as an enforcer of those rules, I will then have to take it back to the NEC and report on the matter. But there is no exceptionalism for Zizi, because all others have been subjected to the same rule, and he has also been subjected to such, and we are guided by the same step-aside rules that have guided us on Zandile Gumede, that she could become a member of the legislature whilst on step-aside. She stepped aside even as a mayor, and then was allowed to be in the legislature. Bongo, it happens. So Zizi can be subjected to exceptionalism. So if the step-aside rule, members believe, including of the Integrity Commission, that there's got to be amends in terms of the step-aside, I will bring it to the NEC. But I wouldn't act on anyone unless if I'm guided otherwise by the rules from the perspective of the National Executive Committee.
Okay.
So justice must be seen to be done, and if you say you're fighting corruption and all of that, it doesn't end with the technicality I'm just explaining to you.
Yeah.
It means society itself out there must see the ANC as a party that is actually serious about these rules that it has adopted. And as we have shown, many of our members are affected by this step-aside rule. And when there are sparkles, like the cases you are mentioning, and there is ambiguity, sort of, out of the rules that we are implementing, a responsible party look at that and then make a determination.
Okay.
And that is it. But we couldn't have acted otherwise. Because we're implementing what is before us and what is the rule in terms of the step aside. And like I said, There is no exceptionalism.
Thanks, SG. That clarifies that. The other issue is the outcome of the elections. I know to my colleague you were very clear about what the process was after elections. When is the NEC going to sit and really reflect on it, SG? Because I would imagine that that's a collective process, that the ANC as an organization has to reflect in its entirety on what's happened.
We have set aside 6 days.
Wow, 6 day NEC.
Yes, for the NEC. The first 3 days, the officials, of course, and the NWC will approve this. I've just come from the management meeting. We are proposing 6 days. The first 3 days will focus on the election report, looking at the moment we are in, and then what happened in this election.
And you're going to share that with News24?
Of course, when we are done, we will share that as always with everybody. Okay. And then the next 3 days, in the 6 days, will then focus on strategic thinking for the National Executive Committee, our allies and our deployees. To say that we've got our 6 priorities. This coming weekend, they are going to a government lekgotla to implement the 7th administration program of action. They will give us a feedback how far they've gone to get the 6 priorities on the agenda of government, which we think they should without any difficulty. But also the organization, the ANC, how does it function and respond to these conditions from an organizational capacity but programmatically, because we can no longer be the same, run things the same way. We've got to strengthen our capacity to look at things in government and then keep our deployees in check, not just in check, but support them in government and the legislatures. But at the same time, we've got element in this GNU of us becoming an opposition also role, where we are not in charge and other parties are. But we're in control of most of the political, roles in government that are critical for service delivery. How are we intensifying social transformation project within government? And how are we going to evaluate, through monitoring and evaluation of the party, the performance of government, and convincing society, because it's not really about the boardroom politics in our own meetings. It's about the last person on the ground feeling that government is doing something for them. And that's what is important in these 6 days we'll be doing. Taking a dipstick, we're doing that work. We've been looking at parliamentary committees, there's budget vote, there's cabinet lekgotla. So we gave all of that time, space to continue. But ourselves here at Luthuli House, we are working very hard to do this work that I've just explained to you, the evaluation of the elections, and at the same time the strategic way forward for the party.
Okay. And how is your deployment committee going to work now? Obviously, the situation has changed completely, given the fact that there's ministers from the DA, for instance. How is that going to impact on the work of your deployment committee? Is that going to shift going forward? I'm not talking about cadre deployment as in the sense that it's been used by the DA, for instance. I'm talking about how the ANC's deployment works.
No, it won't change. Okay. Because we're still in power. It won't change. Deployment committee will continue to direct deployment of its cadreship in strategic areas in government. It won't change. Okay. In government and everywhere else, it is necessary to direct deployment. So there's nothing that is going to change. The fact of the matter is that we are in government with a reduced majority, and so there are certain sectors that we have lost power over, such that we cannot talk deployment in those, because they are completely probably out of our hands.
Okay. And my last question is about the municipalities. We're heading into an election in 2 years' time. Are you talking to the GNU parties about stabilizing governments locally, municipalities, the metros in particular? Joburg is in a crisis situation at the moment. I'm sure residents can attest to that. The water situation, service delivery. What is the ANC doing to stabilize municipalities and metros? Has the GNU given you an opportunity to do that?
Why don't we talk about Pretoria?
I don't think it's as splintered. I think the governance is it's got a solid majority. I mean, the DA is.
No, I'm not talking about solid majority and the DA.
Yeah.
Even here, you have a government of national unity with those parties that you've got in Johannesburg. I'm talking about Johannesburg service delivery versus Pretoria.
But you're not running Tshwane.
No, we're not running Tshwane.
So I wouldn't talk to you about that.
Yeah, but I'm saying where we are not in charge and we are supposed to be leading, we are 34% in Tshwane, DA is 32.
Okay.
And then in this particular instance, we should be the party directing the affairs there. But how these coalitions have worked in the local municipalities and have produced the results that it has is because we have not matured and talked to the right parties and do what we can do at national level. Even if the national framework was the same as the local government, do you think we would have achieved this result of the GNU? We wouldn't. Yeah. The parties that are dominant and that society has voted for, we have avoided to talk. And why shouldn't we talk? And maybe that is the next step to achieve stability, because we know that we will talk about serious business about our constituencies. The DA has got people who have voted for it. The ANC have got people who have voted for it. We and the DA can form government anywhere in the country, because we have not registered outright majority. It's not about positions, it's about the principle of what we stand for. This thing of talking ideology with people whom you don't share the same ideology with has basically put us where we are. And if the results, like it has happened, you don't get outright majority, like it has happened in the past, Cape Town, the DA and the ANC formed government for 5 years.
Yes.
In Western Cape, up until the DA toppled us in the Western Cape. The Inkatha Freedom Party and the ANC formed government for 10 years.
Until
the ANC toppled the IFP.
Yeah.
There was stability. There was no problem in terms of stable government. We don't have stable government. What do you expect? Where you've got political parties who are supposed to be talking to each other did not talk. And we simply talk past each other. And we need to look into that.
Will you talk?
Yes, we are talking.
You are talking.
Yeah, we are talking. We have not gone to the substance of it, but we are. And we will talk about it. Because I agree with you that coalitions in local government have been unstable, and that is why we attended the meeting called by the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, and we presented our perspectives there. And we and the DA were agreed in terms of the perspective. Only smaller parties were in disagreement with us. So there's no question of whatever that people seek to portray, ideology and all of that. It's a question of where does the election outcome places you, and what do you do then for the interest of the people? If we serve the people, we will do what the people want, and we have not talked. So we are talking, and we are going to be talking about it.
And okay, promise this is my last one. What happens every 5 years in the ANC is the ANC elects new leaders. And next year is the NGC in 2025, and generally that process starts around the NGC. This time around, it's going to be difficult for the ANC. You can't afford a fractious leadership contest, given your electoral performance, given the fact that the next ANC internal election is 2 years before a national election. Is leadership contestation to succeed President Ramaphosa going to be another, looming danger for the ANC?
The ANC members must be matured enough out of this outcome not to allow anyone to set an agenda for the party. And that agenda is an agenda of saying, forget about what has happened to you in 2024, 29 May. Discuss succession of leadership. Why can't the ANC become matured as a party and as leadership and all of that? Understand that the moment we are in require the party that act in unison. Should we arrive at conference and the issue of leadership arises, it's normal. In a democratic organization like ours, we are not an organization of kings and chiefs. We are not a traditional council. Leaders get to be evaluated and elected. It's not a given that you are a leader forever. You evaluate leadership. You make determination guided by a perspective, not by money. That I've got 200 million I've raised, and therefore this can take me to become a president of the country. What is in the best interest of the party today? Do we want to have a leadership contestation? And then we're defined as this party that is forever having the image of a party that thinks inward and not about the people, and not a party that sees itself as facing existential crisis. And you just think about who become. It is incorrect to think that a leader will change the party's fortunes. The party's fortunes are changed by the mood, the behavior, and at the same time, the conduct of that party politically and ideologically for what it believes in and it stands for. You go to a conference, you celebrate, you elect somebody. If there is load shedding, people won't vote for you. Parties' fortunes are not changed by the person, they are changed. To have a person who's a good leader at that moment is a plus, right? But parties' fortunes, it has been proven in our democracy, are changed by the circumstances of how you impact on the lives of the people. We may get to a conference and we've got load shedding double, water crisis double, poverty, increased, unemployment. How will a party leader change that? Because the system of elections in our country is constituency. It's not constituency driven, it's party driven. So in this particular instance, we need to be alive to those realities. And I think the biggest task of the leadership now is not to fuel tensions. It's not to have what I call uncontrollable desires for power. People were busy during the elections, even in our ranks, discussing who must come in and who must not come, and so on, who must be a leader and so on. Mbalula must contest, Mashatile, and all of that. or Mbalula must not contest Mashatile, must remain where he is, somebody must come in, we are a younger generation, we must take over. In the middle of the election, we had to come down on them and say that by the time you finish that discussions, power will be gone. Others thought that we're theorizing. Here is the reality. Here is it, 40%. So by the time you finish, who becomes the next, which is the simplest issue. 4,000 delegates gathering at Nazareth, elect somebody, but with a party that is going down the drain. Yes. What are you going to do about it? We need to change our party's fortunes today and now and stop the rot of discussing non-issues and elevate them to strategic questions. Our people want the ANC that is alive, that is giving answers to their issues, and an ANC that is leading and inspiring South Africans with hope. We've got leadership now. Ramaphosa is leading us, and is leading us very well. Let's use that so that when it departs, like Mbeki, we look back and say that the president has made his contribution, and then we are now ready for the next one. It could be anyone. If it is Paul, let it be Paul. Is this time is a deputy, and then the membership is ready, it supports him, and all of that, it will be Paul. And then we all fall into line, and that's it. If it is not, and people are discussing and all of that, let's discuss. But let's not destabilize the ANC. And I think, to strike a personal note, I wouldn't want to be part of people who are going to work for the destabilization of the ANC. I want to contribute in the ANC in this position to gather good fortunes for the ANC. And when I leave, I must say, at some point we're at 40%. We brought the ANC back. And we came in a difficult time, and we managed to fight back. And that fight back is now. And I think that's the legacy I want to contribute to. Not the legacy that we came, it was 40%, it went further down, it never came back. I think that's when, even if I die, I think I will be spooking for the rest of my life, because look, this would have been the mess we have left behind. I see an opportunity out of this, that the movement will rise, because now we are wide awake. We know that certain things can happen. The same as when Tshwane was going, and members of the ANC said no Sputla, no, and all of that, and it happened. And where are we today? We are languishing there in opposition benches and all of that. So we will get out of this. It's a setback, significant setback, which gave us an opportunity to still implement our programs and social transformation decisively, and get back in a big way. But it's not a given. How we conduct ourselves, and as I conclude, how we conduct ourselves when we are faced with a calamity like this, I characterize it as a calamity. Everybody expected that in a couple of months they would have forgotten about this. They will just be thinking about who becomes a leader, because that communicates a message to society that these people don't care. Okay. They don't care. They are just thinking about themselves and positions. South Africans are tired. Are tired about political party that think of itself and does not think about their future. And immediately, even when they teach us a lesson through an election, it's as though we don't listen. So they will go, these people. They will say that, no, we've got options, let's go. Leave the ANC, is dead, it will never come back, let's go. And I believe the General Council must serve the purpose of intensifying revitalization. The 6 days NEC meeting is going to give us a good sense of what happened, a good cold shower, and then a dipstick, and at the same time prepare us for battles ahead. And my job with the collective I work with here is to ensure that we drive the center, and that's what we're going to do.
Cool.